Please be seated. So a little less than a year ago, we were all prepping for our annual St. Thomas staff gathering. It's a time when we celebrate the coming Christmas season because, for obvious reasons, I think, we don't really get a chance to celebrate Christmas as a staff at St. Thomas. We get overwhelmed by all the things that are going on, and we just go our separate ways after Christmas comes. So we do this annual gathering, and we do a little gift exchange. And last year, of course, our lovely children's director, Laura Beth, was thinking about what gift, under a certain spending limit to get. And she was so creative, but she asked all of the staff, she said, I want you all to provide me with a word that makes you think of Advent. When you think of Advent, what word comes to mind? And so, a lot of people did a reply all, because if you're on an email chain, that's typically what we do, right? So you get the reply all, and people say Mary, and Jesus, and family, and I'm apparently someone at Melanie, sorry, Melanie, I'm calling you out. Melanie put stressed. I did not see it, but Melanie put stressed. And all these other, what you would think of, Christmas lights, I think was one of them. I put reckoning. And it was really interesting when we opened all the gifts, because no one knew what she was going to do with these words. And sweet Laura Beth, man, I love this about her. It was a tea towel, right? So if you can imagine a tea towel, it was in all these kind of a red and green decorative look, and then you've got all these kind, happy words, and then you have apparently stressed was on there, and then also reckoning. Because for me, that is what Advent was about. Now, of course, if you knew our previous rector, Paul, you knew that he knew immediately who put reckoning. It was not anyone else but me. I'm the one who put the reckoning. I guess he probably knew, or maybe he guessed stressed. I don't know, Melanie. But for me, Christ the King Sunday is about reckoning. Merriam-Webster defines reckoning as an account. At least that's in the most archaic sense of the word. But I think it still fits perfectly. It fits with this Sunday because it is on this Sunday, every single year, that we consider the cosmic reckoning of all things. That is, that we consider the account or the estimation of all things at their very core. And at their very core, as we just heard in Colossians, what is at its very core? All things, all creation. Everything comes back to Christ in all things. So it is a time for us to collectively wonder who and whose we are as we prepare to enter a time of reflection about what it means to experience the manifestation of God in human form, for we are, at our core, established in Christ. So for us to consider the implication of one who comes to account for all creation, that is Christ, we are called into reflection. And by God, we need a good accounting. We should be wondering. We should be giving account. We should be giving a reckoning of all creation. Because just look around. I see it in my own eyes when I look in the mirror. I see the despair in your eyes. I see you longing for a better world, a world with more peace, more kindness. God knows you long for more grace from your fellow humanity, a world in which people love the earth. And of course, they actually love one another, not just like a, kind of fluffy love, but a love that is undergirded by discipline. A world in which pain is no more, and each of our realities are blanketed by love that we often name reconciliation. But we don't do that. We don't pay attention to that. That is not what we do in Advent. Advent has become a time not when we consider and account for all things, especially ourselves, but of course we turn to lighter thoughts. And I don't blame you. I did the exact same thing. Just last night, I was Googling, best artificial Christmas tree, and cannot wait to put up a Christmas tree, even though all of my being says, it's not time yet, Ranie, but I want to do it. I am desperate. Y'all, when you go past my office door come after Thanksgiving, there are going to be lights and sirens, okay? Because I cannot wait for the lights, y'all, because it's hard out there. I think we'd all rather say, I'd rather not think too much about accounting of myself. Instead, it's, let's get those Christmas lights up as soon as Thanksgiving is over. Let's party every single chance we get. Merry Christmas, y'all. Live, laugh, love. Let's celebrate. And when we talk about Jesus, when we talk about Mary, we talk about mild. We talk about tame, gentle, meek. And we love to celebrate our sweet little baby Jesus. We love to dress up our children in cute costumes. And let me tell you, they are so cute, and I totally get the warm fuzzies. But that isn't what Advent is about. Advent has become all about getting ready for Christmas. But that was not the intention of Advent. The point of Advent was to prepare us, really to ready us for something so overwhelming, so earth-shattering, that we will be shook to our very cores. It is to prepare us for the awe-inspiring gift that shook and continues to shake the cosmos through the beginning of an event that shapes all creation. That event begins with the advent of a new type of ruler, a new type of governance, one in which there is no fear, no domination, and not one of any politician that we can think of. That ruler is Christ, a king. Think about Christ as a king. It is absolutely absurd, and we're going to talk about it throughout Advent, I hope. Anyway, if you look over the readings or the appointed hymns for the coming weeks in Advent, they are often filled with end times language or images, not about baby Jesus. This time is pointing us towards something greater than the birth of a little baby, even if that little baby is the beginning of it all. Advent is a season that points us to the accounting, the reckoning of all things. Often when other Christians hear me talk about reckoning, and I do not blame you, because we are all in a culture that is very Christian and it has all kinds of things going on in it. Accounting, reckoning, end times, scary end times. They want to run in the opposite direction. Jeannie is one of them. I say, Jeannie, guess what? I'm talking about on Sunday. She's like, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm totally doing it. But let me assure you, y'all, this is the best news. This reckoning is not bad news. It is the best news because God is not waiting on us to make good things happen. God didn't wait on us to come into the world. God came anyway. And God keeps coming. The person of Christ, as we know in Jesus, is all about reconciliation. God is all about the epitome of grace and peace and restoration. And yes, it may be hard to follow Jesus now. I know, I do know. But we must make choices about how we're going to live out our lives as Christ followers in a world that has only begun to know the greatness in Christ. So here we are. We are caught up in this hard place. And I'm sure you feel it all around. We are caught up in a world that is moving in every moment towards the grace of God, and yet still feeling the reality of sin, because the kingdom in which Christ is the ruler has very unruly citizens. Yeah. As Episcopal priest and author and theologian Fleming Rutledge puts it, and I love it, Advent calls for a life lived on the edge. And I love it because it perfectly summarizes what we as Christians are constantly caught up in as the church. We are constantly caught up in the past, in the present, and the future revelation of God. They are all represented in this season of Advent. Also, as an aside, just a little plug, I'm going to be using that book, a book by Rutledge Fleming on Advent for adult Christian formation beginning next week. So if you're curious about how all this fits together, I really encourage you to come. I'm going to be doing little fun presentations on PowerPoint too. So if you enjoy a little, fun, and I think you'll enjoy that. Most pointedly, though, she says of Advent, the disappointment, brokenness, suffering, and pain that characterize life in this present world is held in dynamic tension with the promise of future glory that is yet to come. In that Advent tension, the church lives its life. There you go. In that Advent tension, the church lives its life. If you feel like you are tense as a follower of Christ, if you feel like you are stuck in the middle of something, you're doing it right. This season, before Christ's second coming, is a time of preparation, of wondering, flexing our resilience as disciples, and shaking off some of those worldly habits that keep us and other citizens of light from experiencing Christ's glorious kingdom as much as we possibly can right now. More than anything, a reckoning of all things happening in Christ, it has begun and will continue in heaven and on earth. As Colossians so perfectly says, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers, all things have been created through him and for him. Colossians summarizes the totality of this reckoning. Through him, Christ, God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of the cross. A past event. The blood on the cross is a past event. The account of all things is rooted in Christ, and we are rooted in Christ. We are part of it right now, and we will be a part of it in the future, but we don't need to wait. In fact, we are invited to be participants in this reckoning right now, in this account. So I ask you to enter into the season with me as a fellow wanderer. I hope you will take up a practice of wondering often as a disciple. Wonder about yourself, wonder about the people and the world around you, and most especially, wonder about the character of God. Perhaps now is also a good time for wandering in Christ's kingdom. If the saying is true, not all who wander are lost, may we lean into wondering and also wandering as citizens of Christ's kingdom during this upcoming Advent season.